The signal came without warning, a desperate plea carried across the void. It wasn't just static or garbled noise, it was a message of fear, encoded in a language humanity's starfarers had learned to decipher long ago. Captain Danner leaned forward in his chair on the bridge of the Resolute, eyes narrowing as the words translated on the console. The Zathari, an alien race scarcely known outside scientific circles, were crying out for help. "They're being invaded," Lieutenant Harris said, her voice subdued as the message continued to play. "They say they can't hold them off." Danner tapped his fingers on the armrest. Humanity's ventures into space had taught them hard lessons. The galaxy was no utopia. Predatory species like the Sharrik, the aggressors mentioned in the transmission, were a stark reminder of that truth. The Sharrik thrived on conquest, targeting weaker civilizations for their resources. "Could be a trap," grumbled Davis, the ship's weapons officer. "They dangle bait, we show up, and suddenly we're the ones under fire." Harris shot him a look. "Or it's exactly what it sounds like. A species on the brink of extinction." The debate spread through the bridge like wildfire. Arguments for caution clashed with the moral imperative to act. Humanity's place in the galaxy was still being written, and every decision carried weight. Danner raised a hand, silencing the room. "Enough. Let's focus. This isn't about us, this is about them. If what they're saying is true, we're their last hope. If it's a trap, we deal with it. Either way we respond." No one argued. The crew of the Resolute knew what kind of captain they served under. Danner had a reputation, not for recklessness but for calculated bravery. It was why they followed him into the unknown time and again. As the ship adjusted course, heading toward the distant coordinates of the Zathari homeworld, tension hung in the air. The unknown always carried risk, but for humanity, risk was a part of existence. Earth, their home, was a crucible of hardship, a death world. Its storms, predators, and diseases had shaped them into survivors. It was this resilience that had earned them their reputation among the stars, one that often inspired fear in other species. In the quiet hum of the bridge, Harris spoke again, almost to herself. "They're asking for help because they think we can save them. Us of all people." Danner glanced at her. "And they're right. We'll show them why." The Resolute powered forward, engines burning bright against the black. This wasn't the first time humanity had faced impossible odds, and it wouldn't be the last. They were Deathworlders after all. And when someone called for help, they answered. The Resolute emerged from hyperspace into the orbit of the Zathari homeworld. Below stretched a tranquil planet of soft blues and greens, its atmosphere shimmering faintly like a protective veil. The contrast to Earth's harsh landscapes was striking. Captain Danner and his crew prepared for their descent, uncertain of what awaited them. The Zathari delegation greeted them with cautious reverence. Standing barely 5 feet tall, the aliens were thin and delicate, their translucent skin faintly glowing under the sunlight. They moved with a grace that spoke of a species unaccustomed to conflict. Their leader, Elder Tathal, spoke with a voice that was almost musical, though it carried the weight of desperation. "We have never faced such aggression," Tathal explained, his wide, reflective eyes flickering with unease. "The Sharrik do not negotiate. They destroy. We do not know how to fight." The humans exchanged glances. For all their advancements, the Zathari had no weapons, only energy shields designed for environmental protection. Their civilization thrived on cooperation and intellect, not war. To them, violence was a concept as alien as peace was to the Sharrik. Danner stepped forward, his voice steady. "We can help. But it won't be easy. You'll have to make sacrifices, and some of you will need to fight." The Zathari recoiled at the word. One among them, a younger alien named Larax, shook his head. "We cannot. To take life is to lose part of ourselves." "You'll lose more if you don't," said Lieutenant Harris bluntly. "The Sharrik won't stop until they've stripped this planet bare. You have the tools to resist. Let us show you how to use them." Elder Tathal hesitated, visibly torn. "Our ways are not yours. To embrace violence, it would change who we are." Danner softened his tone, sensing the fragility of their resolve. "We're not asking you to become like us. But you need to survive. Survival doesn't mean abandoning who you are. It means protecting what matters." Over the next hours, the humans assessed the Zathari technology. Though designed for peace, their advancements were remarkable. Energy fields could be adapted into barriers. Agricultural drones could be reprogrammed into automated sentries. The humans worked tirelessly, crafting a defense strategy that combined Zathari innovation with their own hard-won expertise in survival. Still, tension lingered. Among the Zathari, factions emerged, those willing to listen and those who clung to their pacifism. Danner addressed their fears through stories of Earth's struggles, recounting times when humanity had faced annihilation and risen stronger. "We didn't choose to live on a death world," he said to a gathering of Zathari leaders. "But we learned to thrive on it. You don't have to fight like us. Just fight for each other." By the end of the day, cracks of resolve began to show in even the staunchest pacifists. Elder Tathal spoke with quiet resolve. "If there is a way to resist without losing ourselves, we will try." The first step was taken. The Zathari had never needed courage before, but now they saw it reflected in the humans standing beside them. The Sharrik fleet arrived as a dark swarm, blotting out the stars. Their ships were jagged and menacing, exuding an aura of brutal efficiency. The Zathari gathered in their shelters, trembling as the invaders entered their atmosphere. For many, it was the first time they had ever experienced true fear. On the surface, Captain Danner and his crew stood ready, every member fully aware of the stakes. The first wave of the Sharrik attack came fast and ruthless. Drones swept across the skies, scanning for weak points in the Zathari's energy barriers. But these were no longer the passive shields the Sharrik might have expected. Under the guidance of the humans, the barriers had been reinforced with adaptive feedback mechanisms, dispersing the Sharrik's energy blasts and temporarily disabling their drones. "Keep them guessing," Danner barked as the crew coordinated the defense. Zathari agricultural drones, now repurposed, launched bursts of electromagnetic interference, scrambling the Sharrik's targeting systems. Meanwhile, human soldiers, armed with makeshift railguns crafted from Zathari mining tools, took down enemy probes from concealed positions. The battle was chaotic. The Sharrik, accustomed to overwhelming their targets with brute force, found themselves facing resistance they hadn't anticipated. They adjusted, sending down heavier attack ships to breach the energy barriers. These ships were met with a new kind of surprise. Using knowledge passed down from Earth's own wars, the humans had rigged Zathari cargo pods with explosives, turning them into improvised mines. As the Sharrik ships descended, the mines detonated in precise, calculated intervals, creating a deadly no-fly zone over key areas. Still, the Sharrik pressed on. Their infantry began landing in droves, each soldier a hulking creature encased in biomechanical armor. They moved with predatory grace, their purpose clear: break the will of the defenders. It was here that the Zathari faced their greatest test. For a moment, panic threatened to undo everything. Some Zathari fled, unable to confront the horror of the Sharrik face to face. But others stayed, galvanized by the human crew. Lieutenant Harris, leading a group of defenders, shouted orders while laying down cover fire with a salvaged Zathari energy cannon. "Hold your ground. They bleed like anyone else." One of the younger Zathari, Larex, found himself cornered by a Sharrik soldier. Paralyzed with fear, he watched as the predator raised its weapon. Before it could strike, a human engineer tackled the soldier from behind, using nothing but sheer force and a reinforced exosuit. The engineer didn't survive, but his sacrifice jolted Larex into action. With trembling hands, he activated a nearby drone, sending it careening into the Sharrik soldier, neutralizing the threat. This moment became a turning point. The Zathari, inspired by the humans' willingness to fight and die for them, began to fight back in small but meaningful ways. They operated drones, reinforced barriers, and coordinated logistics to keep the resistance alive. Hours later, the tide began to turn. The Sharrik, losing more resources than they had anticipated, started retreating. Captain Danner's strategy had worked, and the Zathari had done the unthinkable: they had defended themselves. But the cost was high, and victory felt bittersweet. For the first time, the Zathari understood both the burden and the power of survival. The aftermath of the battle was a mix of relief and somber reflection. The once pristine landscapes of the Zathari homeworld now bore the scars of conflict. Craters where bombs had detonated, fields scorched from energy blasts, and shattered remnants of Sharrik war machines scattered like relics of a nightmare. The humans wasted no time. While the Zathari mourned their losses, the crew of the Resolute worked tirelessly to help stabilize the planet. Engineers assessed the damage, repurposing remnants of the Sharrik technology into defensive measures. Medics tended to the wounded, human and Zathari alike, using a blend of advanced medicine and field improvisation. Danner oversaw it all, his face etched with the weariness of hard decisions but steadfast in his resolve. Elder Tathal approached him as the sun set over the battered horizon. "You have given us a chance to survive," Tathal said, his voice heavy with gratitude and grief. "But at what cost? We are no longer who we were." Danner looked at him, understanding the weight of his words. "Survival changes everyone. It doesn't mean you've lost who you are," it means you're strong enough to keep going. That strength will shape your future. Among the Zathari, debates simmered. Some, like Larex, had embraced the necessity of self-defense, seeing it as a painful but vital evolution. Others struggled to reconcile their pacifist ideals with the actions they had taken. The humans didn't interfere in these discussions, recognizing that the Zathari needed to find their own balance. Meanwhile, the crew of the Resolute prepared for departure. The Zathari had resources to rebuild, and the humans had left them with the knowledge to continue fortifying their world. Still, the victory was not without its cost. 2 members of the crew had fallen in battle, their loss a somber reminder of the sacrifices that came with humanity's reputation as Deathworlders. At the ship's hangar, Larex approached Lieutenant Harris. "You've shown us more than how to fight. You've shown us what it means to care for something enough to defend it." Harris nodded, her expression firm. "That's the thing about survival, it's not just about staying alive. It's about protecting what matters." As the Resolute ascended back into orbit, Danner took a moment to reflect. He stood at the bridge, gazing out at the planet below. The Zathari would never be the same, but they were alive and they had a chance to grow stronger. That was humanity's gift, for better or worse, a spark of resilience passed on to those who needed it most. The galaxy would hear of this battle. The Sharrik would remember the humans who had turned their aggression into humiliation. Other species, watching from the shadows, would see humanity not just as survivors but as protectors, willing to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. As the stars stretched into streaks of light and the Resolute jumped to its next destination, Danner allowed himself a rare moment of hope. The galaxy was harsh, but maybe, just maybe, it was a little brighter because humans had chosen to be part of it.